with Socially Now, your Central Valley social marketing management company. And today's special guest is Barbara Barrigan-Parrilla with the Restore the Delta.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for coming out here.
Thanks for inviting me.
No, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. Now, for those of us that don't know what Restore the Delta is, and I know this is your passion and you've been doing this for several years, can you share with our viewers and our audience what Restore the Delta is?
We are a nonprofit 501c3 education and outreach organization, and we communicate and teach the people of California about the importance of water quality and quantity to the Delta, why the Delta is California's hidden jewel and treasure, why it is worthy and deserves protection, and how it needs to be managed for the future, not only for the people of the region, but as a vital resource for the state.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that kind of shares a lot there. Now, recently, we're in May 2012, beginning of May, and we had two bills presented, assembly bills to the state, AB 2000 by Hubert and AB 2421 Berryhill.
Right.
And so we just had some news with that in regards to that. Can you share a little bit about that?
Both bills were really important to the Delta. AB 2000, which was the Huber bill, was really a bill calling for better local participation and involvement in the Bay Delta Conservation Plan process. It was a good bill. Unfortunately, it did not pass, but what Assemblymember Huber did through that bill was help set the trajectory for the passage of AB 2421, which we believe is one of the most important bills to come out about the future of the Delta. It calls for a cost-benefit analysis to be done by the Legislative Analyst's Office in Sacramento to find out what are the true costs of building the proposed Bay Delta Conservation Plan project, known to people in the past as the Peripheral Canal.
Right, exactly.
It's back. It may be called a channel or a tunnel this time.
Right.
And it's been sold as part of a conservation plan package, even though a lot of that is definitely up for dispute when you look at the actual details of the plan itself.
Right.
So this, water contractors are saying that they're going to pay for the cost of the canal. But nobody is really doing a public and well thought out analysis for their ratepayers on how much that's really going to cost them, if there's really going to be a benefit compared to what will be spent to construct the project.
Right.
And then nobody is looking at true costs in terms of what we need to pay out for environmental mitigation, for the damage that will happen within the Delta. What kind of mitigation would need to be paid out for the loss of farmland through the proposed project, and beyond that, what are the impacts of the payback rate? Our analysis shows that the project runs between $12 and $20 billion a year, and you pay it back over 35 years, $1.1 billion a year. That brings the cost of this project possibly up to $61 billion as a minimum.
And so obviously we have to have a forecast, we have to have reports and a budget and analysis in regards to that.
You cannot go about building the largest public works project in the history of California without letting the taxpayers and the ratepayers know how much it's going to cost.
Very good point. We all need to know, obviously, especially now with today's economic climate. This is something that's very, very important, and we need to be aware of these information. Now, one other thing, I know that Central Valley Business Times had an interview with you in regards to the canals. That was another issue that you were also concerned in, how we have to support those and actually make them safe because of what can happen if some
levees.
Yes, I'm sorry, the levees. I apologize. Yeah,
no.
The levees.
Yesterday, the Delta Protection Commission co-sponsored a conference on levee standards with the Water Education Foundation.
Okay.
And it is my understanding from the outcome from that conference that in accordance with the Delta Protection Commission, the Army Corps of Engineers is very much in favor of holding to a higher public safety standard for levees than what is currently being proposed by the state's Department of Water Resources. The Department of Water Resources is proposing a standard that really gives you just incremental safety over a 100-year flood standard. And it is also my understanding that it's all based on levee reconfiguration based on this new project coming through. So it really hasn't been thought out, because the truth is in the Delta that if you all the levees are dependent on each other within the system, and if you let one area be weak, it puts pressure on stronger areas and therefore weakens them. And the Army Corps of Engineers is proposing that levees really have to be reinforced to the highest public safety standard, and that's something we really agree with at Restore the Delta, because it doesn't matter if you put in a project or not.
Right.
We still have 4 million people in the 5 Delta counties living behind those levees, so public safety is absolutely paramount.
Right. Utmost importance.
It's very, very important, and in addition, people don't realize that we have about $20 billion worth of infrastructure. Not even what the value of those private farms are and marinas.
Exactly.
But we have PG&E lines, we have gas lines, we have highways, we have railroads that pass through the Delta, and those are all assets that really need to be protected.
And an earthquake or something catastrophic could actually
here's one of the things that we talk about at Restore the Delta. We believe that the earthquake threat, using the research of Dr. Bob Pike, who is probably one of the foremost experts on levees in the state of California.
Okay.
The earthquake threat is overrated for the Delta.
Okay.
Not that there isn't a threat. There's a threat everywhere in California, practically.
Absolutely.
But if you look at the West Delta, which they put in part of that threat, they say an earthquake would cause collapse and saltwater intrusion from the bay. The west end of the Delta is 45 miles away from the Hayward Fault. That's a pretty good distance.
It is.
And if you look at what's happened, say, in Japan with their recent earthquakes, earthquake damage usually affects engineered projects. Their levees have actually held up remarkably well. They're also built on peat soil very similar to what's in the Delta.
Yes.
We actually believe that there is a greater threat for earthquake damage to the water system for the state. When you take a look at the fault line maps and you look at where the state and federal water projects run through the Central Valley, and then after at the end of the valley they continue over to the Tehachapi's, we have pumping and piping. We think they are in a more vulnerable situation than levees are in the Delta.
I see.
And we actually believe that if you really want to secure water supply, whether it's from threat of earthquake or sea level rise or from terrorism or anything, that the idea is to make as many areas of regional self-sufficiency as possible. You become more vulnerable to threats if you're transporting large amounts of water across the state.
Right.
And you really want to, what we really are promoting at Restore the Delta, the solution to the Delta is very much, other than levees, very much outside the Delta.
Outside the Delta.
Right. We need to make other areas in the state as self-sufficient as possible.
Self-sufficient, right.
And that doesn't mean that there isn't some water to share, but we believe that we have to go back to really following good science and only sharing a safe yield of water when we can in wet periods.
Now, with that being said, as far as the budget in regards to the cost of something to reinforce these levees, is there a budget? Are there financing available? And
according to the Delta Protection Commission report, the Economic Sustainability report, for a pretty small investment of $1 to $2 billion, they believe that the levees in the Delta could be brought up to the highest standard, earthquake standard, where you can have a robust levee, a wide levee that can be engineered to withstand sea level rise. In flood events. So, I guess $2 billion is still a lot of money, but when you look at what's already there in terms of an investment, it seems like a smart investment.
Right.
And also, when you look at it, the comparison to $61 billion possibly with the canal.
I was going to say this, but you just said it for me, so this is great. This is great, Barbara. Well, one other thing, we have an event coming up. We're in May. You have an event on May 19th.
May 19th.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We have traditionally one of our board members, John Herrick, with the South Delta Water Agency, runs a not-so-family, as we call it now, barbecue. He likes to tell lots of jokes.
Right.
There's usually a wonderful auction featuring wonderful products from the region, a lot of Delta wine, great food. There'll be a roasting of a whole pig. It's out at the Farm Center out on Union Island in the Deltons, and we have a really good time. It's a lot of fun. It's a fun event. I do actually take my daughter.
This is good. This is good. So it's a fun event. It's a family event, and there's food. This is great. A lot of same mindset individuals.
Right.
So you know what? We're going to put that information. So if anyone's interested, they can contact you or John, Mr. Herrick, and get that information. It's going to be a fun event, and if this is something as far as Restore the Delta that you're passionate and really wanting to help, it's a great way to get involved and get an introduction of what can be done and what you need to know. And so with that being said, would you like to add anything else, Barbara?
Just thanks for the opportunity to talk with you this morning. It's a beautiful setting here, and this is what the Delta's all about.
Yes, we are at the University Plaza in Stockton, right downtown, so we definitely are, we're about being local and supportive. So thank you again, Barbara, for being here.
Thanks,
I appreciate it.
it.
All right.